Hello and welcome to Story Time with Dan. Not really. We're going to be taking a look at this book in a few of these videos. Let's see if I can get it out there. Propaganda by Edward Bernays. I'm not going to beleaguer who this guy is. Go to Wikipedia or something. He's a dubious character is what we'll say. Okay folks, this book is important because in essence you might as well look at this as a guidebook on how to control and manipulate huge groups of people. On some level it works on an individual basis too, but this is basically a book which tells you how it's done. It's a book which was written in essence for marketers and advertising people going way back, and more importantly to be used by PR people within governments, etc., in order to convince other people to go around the world and murder one another. It's lovely, isn't it? Anyway, this is a book most of us obviously have never heard of. It's quite new to me, going back a few years when I first started really looking at this thing. So let's get on. And what better place to start a book than at the start? And let's look at this. Chapter 1, first two words, ladies and gentlemen. If you live in, well, anywhere at the moment, you're going to know the importance of these two words. Chapter 1 is organising chaos. There you go. I could stop there really, couldn't I? Anyway, here we go. So we're going to read through this and we're just going to pull it apart in places, see how this goes. Chapter 1, Organising Chaos. The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organised habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Line 1. Line 1. The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organised habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. If you live in a democracy, you are consciously manipulated. Line 1. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. Now when I say our country, this is an American book. It's a Western concept and it's everywhere. So, line 1. If you live in a democracy, you're manipulated, so therefore do not. Line 2. Those who manipulate the society are a hidden government. We are governed, our minds moulded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested, largely by men who we have never heard of. When this book was written, that was true. Now we have a good idea. This is a logical result of the way in which our democratic society is organised. Vast numbers of human beings must cooperate in this manner if they are to live together as a smoothly functioning society. Translated: you have to be manipulated. You have to be. Our invisible governors are, in many cases, unaware of the identity of their fellow members in the inner cabinet. In other words, think of a pyramid scheme where the people just below the people just above them have no idea what the next person's doing. So for example, you may have a technician building a switch to turn on and off something. Okay? And 20 processes down the line, without his knowledge, it arms a nuclear weapon. Okay? So no one actually knows that they're working together, except some people who are very, very at the top of that particular pyramid. They govern us by their qualities of natural leadership, their ability to supply needed ideas, and by their key position in the social structure. Rich elitists. Okay? Whatever attitude one chooses towards this condition, it remains a fact that in almost every act of our daily lives, whether in the sphere of politics or business, in our social conduct or our ethical thinking, we are dominated by the relatively small number of persons, a trifling fraction of our 120 million, figures to be amended for now, who understand the mental processes and social patterns of the masses. It is they who pull the wires which control the public mind, who harness old social forces and contrive new ways to bind and guide the world. So, just so you know, guys, this isn't a book trying to expose this, okay? It's a manual on how to do it, okay? I want you to be sure that you understand that. It is not usually realised how necessary these invisible governors are to the orderly functioning of our group life. In theory, every citizen may vote for whom he pleases. Our constitution does not envisage political parties as part of the mechanism of government, and its framers seem not to have pictured to themselves the existence in our national politics of anything like the modern political machine. But the American voters soon found that without organisation and direction, their individual votes, cast perhaps for dozens of hundreds of candidates, would produce nothing but confusion. Invisible government in the shape of rudimentary political parties arose almost overnight. Ever since then, you ready for this? We have agreed, you and I, for the sake of simplicity and practicality, that party machines should narrow down the field of choice to 2 candidates, or at most 3 or 4. In other words, people are such idiots that they wouldn't vote for who we tell them to, okay? People are such morons that they would perceive a vast array of choice in the world and choose accordingly. So, what we're going to do, with the agreement of you and I'm not sure if you received this letter or memo at any point. Ladies and gentlemen, I seem to have missed the email. We agree to be manipulated, and we agree to have parties which represent polar opposites. That doesn't even exist anymore. But this was one of the earlier stages of creating what we now live in. In theory, and we hear these 2 words quite a lot, in theory, every citizen makes up his mind on public questions and matters of private conduct. In practice, if all men had to study for themselves the abstruse economic, political and ethical data involved in every question, they would find it impossible to come to a conclusion without anything. You thick bastards! You can't work out how to act properly. You can't figure out how the world works because you're a thick arsehole. We have voluntarily agreed, you and I, to let an invisible government sift the data and high spot the outstanding issue so that our field of choice should be narrowed to practical proportions. From our leaders and the media they use to reach the public, we accept the evidence and the demarcation of issues bearing upon public question from some ethical teacher, be it a minister, an essayist, a merely prevailing opinion. We accept a standardised code of social conduct to which we conform most of the time. Look at that subconscious grabbing of my throat there. In theory, everybody buys the best and cheapest commodities offered to him on the market. In practice, you can't, because you're too thick. I'm going to skip some of this because it gets a little bit repetitive. Some of the phenomena of this process, the manipulation of news, the inflation of personality, and the general ballyhoo, there's a word you don't get every day, by which politicians and commercial products and social ideas are brought to the consciousness of the masses, the instruments by which public opinion is organised and focused may be misused. But such organisation and focusing are necessary to orderly life. Now here's the question. Going by the fact that this is someone that says we all need to be manipulated because we're thick and stupid. It says here that these techniques could be misused. So the question we really ought to ask here is, what do we consider a misuse of this? I consider the use of it misuse. I suspect they consider the misuse of this me telling you about it. Just saying.